Nobody else? Okay. It is now 5:30 on May the 5th, which is the advertised time and date for this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, so I'll not call the meeting to order. I'd like to first of all introduce the staff. The gentleman sitting at the table is Dylan Pipinich, Senior Planner, Planning Director. Next to Dylan on his left, it says Elizabeth Osborne, but you go by a different, Betsy? Slada? Lila? Okay, Elizabeth, AKA Lila, or better, prefers to be known as Lila Osborne. Then across from the two of them is Joella Thomas, planning technician. And sitting down there, taking care of all the electronics is Robin Smith, and she is the administrative assistant, and she'll be recording the minutes of this meeting also. So the first matter that we need to concern ourselves with are the minutes of the last meeting, and I assume we've all had an opportunity to review them, and if so, entertain a motion to approve them.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of the March 10th, 2022 Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting.
Is there a second to that motion? Second. It's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes. And I realize I slipped up. It's been so long since we had a meeting. I should be introducing the board. On my far left is Sylvia Cunningham. Next to Sylvia is John Reese. On my far right is Garrett Craig. And next to Garrett is Todd Collins. My name is Dave Wing, and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. Okay. The first matter on our agenda is...
Mr. Chairman, to correct Lauren Burmeister.
Oh, gosh, no, I was looking at the wrong one.
Hey, it's okay.
It's been a long time, Lauren.
It's been a long time.
Been a long time, I apologize. I was looking down the list here. Lauren Burmeister, I apologize. Okay, so now we got all that settled. First matter on our agenda is special use permit 22 quadruple 3. Is it quadruple? No, quintuple. Okay. Is there a, Lila?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first presentation tonight is for special use 22-3. The applicants are Xerxes Investment and Eric Shaw, though I think we have a different representative here as the agent. The proposal is to co-locate additional wireless antennas onto an existing wireless communications tower and to expand the base by 10 by 15 for a concrete equipment pad and necessary equipment. It's located at 2929 Harrison. It's on the same property as the Super 8 Hotel in the northwest corner, that orange square. It's right on the corner of Bush and Sampson Streets in a C2 community commercial zone. The scope of work for the tower itself, which is 84 feet high, and the height is not proposed to change, but co-located on the tower shall be 3 panel antennas, 1 antenna platform mount, some jumpers, 6 remote radio units, 1 overvoltage protection device, and 1 hybrid cable. For the base, the expansion will include a concrete pad, 5 by 7, an ice bridge, a PPC cabinet, an equipment cabinet, a power conduit, a telco conduit, a telco fiber box, a GPS unit, a safety switch if required, a fiber NID if required, and a meter socket. All the work being done will be in accordance with current building, mechanical, and electrical codes enforced in Butte-Silver. And a site plan here shows what is currently at the site on the left and what is proposed to be here. So co-locating these and the new equipment at the base. Public service and utility buildings are recognized as special uses allowed in any zoning district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with the other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. Planning staff was not able to locate a special use permit existing for this monopole. Due to the nature of the expansion of the base, the project requires review of the criteria. The Zoning Board of Adjustment will review the physical conditions of the location, the conduct and operation of the proposed use, and whether the combination of these factors will be compatible with the proposed site and surrounding areas. There are 20 use variance criteria, and the most relevant to this application are reviewed in this report. The yellow circle shows the location of the tower, and it's in a C2 zoning district, which is the red. And here's some aerial imagery. You can see the hotel and some residential homes, and then the tower. These next slides are images of the tower and surrounding area. This is from inside the parking lot. And these yellow poles are the bollards that will be moved to expand the base. The first criteria we'll review is the location, character, and natural features of the property. On the corner of Bush and Sampson Streets, surrounding properties of this cell tower consist of both residential and commercial uses. The location, character, and natural features of the property will not be significantly altered compared to the original installation, except for the proposed 10 by 15 expansion of the base. This will entail encroachment into an additional parking spot for relocation of those bollards shown on the last picture, and the base area is entirely fenced and mostly shielded by bushes at fence height. Substantial changes that have occurred in the surrounding land uses since the original adoption of this ordinance. There have been no substantial changes in the surrounding land uses. The property in question has been a Super 8 motel since the 1980s, and the properties west of Bush Street have historically held residential uses bordered by commercial to the east. Proposed fencing, screening, and landscaping. Planning staff have been unable to locate any special use permit, and we're not aware of any conditions of approval with which the applicant is required to comply. The purpose and role of the existing screening, however, would not be defeated by the proposed expansion. Proposed sign and lighting. The applicant has stated none other than dish placard on gate and required FCC notices will be implemented at the site. Prior to receiving a building permit, the applicant will be required to receive official certified approval from the FAA for the specific tower specifications and location, which would include the installation of any required lighting on top of the tower. FCC notices and the dish identification placard would be permitted required signage for the monopole. And you can see some of these safety signs already on the fence. All potential nuisances. The 84-foot monopole itself already exists. This review only addresses the impacts of co-locating additional dish antennas and expanding the base by 150 square feet to accommodate the necessary equipment and improvements related to the co-location. There should be no additional nuisance associated with this proposal, and the applicant has stated antennas and related ground equipment are of the like and type of existing equipment at facility. Public safety and health. Dish Wireless is obligated to operate under very strict parameters, highly regulated by the FCC for specific licensed bandwidths, said the applicant. Public health and safety will be provided for by FCC standards, and construction and installation safety procedures shall be followed at the time of construction and installation. That the use or classification sought would enhance and promote the comprehensive development of the immediate neighborhood and community. The 2020 Butte-Silver Comprehensive Plan lists an implementation strategy for enhancing connectivity for residents and businesses by extending the broadband network countywide. Keeping Butte up to date with national wireless technology and business operations may be important in promoting the future stability and development of the community, and this proposal uses existing facilities to support this type of growth. That the use of classification conforms generally to the objectives of the adopted comprehensive plan and to the purpose of this ordinance. The comprehensive plan place type for this property is transportation gateway. It's an existing use and permitted use in any zone by special use permit, so this proposal is consistent with the objectives of the comprehensive plan place type. The comprehensive plan also emphasizes growing wisely into the future by using what exists today to support growth. Co-locating new dish wireless antennas onto an existing monopole makes use of existing infrastructure to improve wireless technology and bandwidth throughout the community. That the new use meets the overall density, yard, height, and other requirements of the zone in which it is located. The applicant has stated existing facilities should meet all requirements, and the proposed expansion of the compound will also meet the current parameters. There is no height change associated with this proposal. A 10 by 15 foot expansion of the base for essential equipment and improvements for this project is reviewed in this report and shall be considered by the board. That the use or classification will not adversely affect nearby properties or their occupants. This proposal does not entail any changes of use at the site. There's no height increase, and the base increase is screened from adjacent residential uses across Bush and Sampson Streets by this fence you can see here. In conclusion, based on the information provided in the application, staff's analysis of the review criteria, and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicants have presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from granting of a special use permit for these alterations to existing wireless communication monopole at 2929 Harrison. Section 1738-160 special or conditional use permit. Decision of the board requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of receipt of the application and all requested information. The board has 60 days to deny the application and give reasons for denial, approve or conditionally approve the application, and the zoning officer shall issue a zoning compliance permit with conditions specified thereon. Thank you.
Thank you, Lila. Do any board members have any questions of the staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have one question for Lila. You made a statement that public health and safety will be provided for by FCC. I assume, does FCC have safety standards that they have to meet, or is it actually, is that what that meant?
Yes, thank you. The FCC has their own health and safety standards that any expansions or construction of FCC regulated poles would have to meet, which are more extensive than our local requirements.
Okay, so all the boxes and everything that are going on the outside, all the different equipment would go to some FCC standard as far as protecting somebody from breaking in there or anything like that?
Mr. Burmeister, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Do any other board members have any questions of the staff? Hearing none, the applicant now has an opportunity to provide any additional information that the applicant feels will be appropriate for the board in its consideration.
I have some construction drawings.
Could you come forward, please, and identify yourself? And spell your last name for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Hank Boger with Powder River Development. My last name is Boeger.
Okay.
I'm representing Dish Wireless, and Octagon is the tower owner on this project.
Okay. You can proceed. You had a question with regard to presenting things.
I have some construction drawings, if anyone would like to take a look.
Yeah, you can pass that on to us and we can take a look at them. Hand them to Lila there. Is there any further information that you'd like to provide to us other than the construction drawings?
I believe your report is very thorough. Everything I prepared was in your report.
Okay. All right. So we'll wait a minute and take a look at these and then see if the board members have any questions of you, sir.
It'd take me an hour to,
You'll never understand them anyway.
I presume that the staff has seen these and approved, so.
Do the exchange here? Are they the same? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Based on your review of the drawings, does any board members have any questions? No? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, board.
Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? Hearing nobody, is there anybody present that would care to speak against the application? Hearing nobody, we can now, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, and we can now discuss this application. I guess under this zoning code, we need to determine if there's any undue detriment that will result from the granting of it. Then, as is true with special use permit applications, we have up to 60 days to decide. I don't know if we want to take the 60 days or not, but we should first decide if there's any undue detriment that would result from granting this application. I myself see none.
I as well, we've got a capable staff who has, they've got all the information. They're, like I said, they're good at their jobs. Under the FCC's thumb, this has probably been looked over as well.
Yeah.
There's no public input. So, what's there already exists, and it's really not going to be much on the ground that's going to change anything. So I don't see any problems.
Nor do I. Make a motion. Should we proceed to determination of this tonight as opposed to waiting our 60 days?
And Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion
Well,
that we...
Dylan, I think has something you want to say.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I believe we've provided the board with maybe a list of recommended conditions of approval. If you do feel that this is an appropriate use, most of which are standard conditions for scenarios such as this.
It looks like I have one, actually. Oh, my gosh, you guys are just... Okay.
I was going to say those don't really apply.
Okay. Those conditions seem appropriate to me.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we approve special use permit or application 22000003 with conditions.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved and second, and we can now vote with regard to this matter. John, it looks like you have May 7th. I can change that to May 5th if you want. Okay. All 5 votes were for the motion. That means that the application has been approved, and you'll be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. And thank you for your attendance this evening. Thank you. The next matter on our agenda is special use permit application 22 quintuple 4, an application by Cameron Moylan. Is Mr. Moylan present? Okay, thank you, sir.
This is a pretty simple application. I guess
No.
I just,
We have to wait for the report first, sir.
sure.
Are you ready to proceed, Joella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is special use permit application 22-00004. The applicant is Cameron Moylan, and it's to locate an Airbnb in an existing residence per section 17.38.180. The applicant is proposing to rent out a 2-bedroom residence for overnight stays and vacation rentals through online hosting program. The staff findings: lodging provided by homeowners for compensation is recognized as a special use allowed in a residential zoning district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with the other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. The process provides for review of physical conditions which exist at the location, the conduct and operation of the proposed use, and whether the combination of these factors will be compatible with the proposed site and surrounding area. To provide the board with information about the proposed special use, the applicant and planning staff have responded to the established 20 questions outlined herein. The location is in a R3, a multifamily residence, outlined here in the navy blue. Here's an aerial photo. This area right here is where the proposed Airbnb would be. Location and character of the property and surrounding building. The property is in an R3, or multifamily residence zone. The home is a single-family home with a footprint of 1,030 square feet, and the subject parcel itself is 4,200 square feet in size. Here's some various photos of the surrounding area. This would be Washington Street looking south. Directly to the north is St. Patrick's Church, and over here is the alleyway. The front of the house is right here behind this fence, and this is Mercury Street Medical's building. Here's some other photos. This is the front of the house, 208 South Washington. The bottom picture here shows a side view from the parking lot of Mercury Street Medical. The front here in the red is where the applicant lives. This is just kind of a storage area, and this area back here would be the area that would be rented for the Airbnb. Location and character of the property and surrounding buildings. The property in question is located within an area containing single-family and multifamily homes. Most lots are 4,200 square feet to about 5,500 square feet in size. The parcel located across the alley to the east are commercial properties, and properties to the north, west, and south are single-family and multifamily residential, also located in the R3 zone. Directly adjoining the subject property to the north is a parking lot for Mercury Street Medical, and St. Patrick's Church is directly across the street from that parking lot. Substantial changes that have occurred in the surrounding land use since the original adoption of the ordinance. No changes in the zoning ordinance have occurred in this area. The property in question is located within the Uptown Edge place type in the comprehensive plan. The Uptown Edge place type serves as a transitional area immediately surrounding the Uptown core, intended for a mix of commercial-centric development interspersed with multifamily residential, but at a scale less dense than in the core itself. This place type also connects the Uptown core with the economic driver place types to the west, including Montana Tech and the hospital campuses. Here is the comprehensive plan map. The black spot there is where the applicant's location is, in the Uptown Edge. Directly below it is the Uptown neighborhood. Economic driver is over to the west, and the Uptown core is more northeast. Proposed fencing and landscaping. There is no proposed changes concerning this property at this time. Proposed vehicle access, circulation, and parking. Staff does have concerns regarding the vehicle access to and from the property, along with available parking. Designated parking is located at the south side of the house in the alley. There is possibly 2 parking spaces. Also on the south edge of the parking area, there's an 18-inch retaining wall that drops off into the adjoining property. This parking area may be precarious in the dark. Handicap access may be a concern as there are steps in the front, rear, and inside of the residence. Staff feels that the applicant should state this in all of their listings. As you can see in the picture, this is the retaining wall that is right next to the parking area. And here's another photo of it just dropping off into the neighboring area to the south. Here's some photos of the back entrance. As you can see, there's a step there. And then the front entrance here is a ramp. It does have some slight inclines going up the ramp. Proposed signs and lighting. The applicant under BSBMC section 1742050.A-5 may have 1 sign as a directional informational sign no larger than 5 square feet in area to inform guests as to where the parking area is located. In addition, applicant shall be permitted a 1 square foot sign flat against the wall to the building. Any change in addition signage would be subject to review and approval by the planning department. Applicants have indicated that they don't intend to install any signage. Regarding lighting, the existing lighting is typical of the residential neighborhood. However, there is no lighting at the back entrance or in the parking area. This could inhibit wayfinding. All potential nuisances. Increased traffic in the neighborhood, so long as occupancy levels of the resident is in conformance with the residential building code, it should not increase any traffic. Parking, there is some off-street parking places. Wayfinding, this particular property has the same address as the applicant's property, so it would be burdensome to locate. The address provided does not exist on any address locating maps. Since the residence in question is in the alley with no individual address, this may cause issues for individuals finding the property. Noise. Staff would suggest that the owner does enforce rules through the online hosting programs to regulate any noise. Public safety and health. Butte-Silver Health Department has regulations related to providing rooms for rent, occupancy levels of the building, that the use conforms to objectives of the adopted comprehensive plan and purpose of the ordinance. The comprehensive plan or the growth policy designation for the parcel is the Uptown Edge. Staff believes that the proposed use is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance to allow for the reasonable use of private property. The zoning ordinance permits certain commercial uses to be located within all residential zones after review by the Zoning Board of Adjustments. The special use application process was created to ensure these types of businesses don't negatively impact the adjacent residents. That the use of the classification will not adversely affect nearby properties or their occupants. Anytime a commercial business encroaches into a residential neighborhood, there is a potential for the use of negative impact. The surrounding property owners, in this case, when considering the low-impact commercial nature of the business and the owner limiting the number of occupants, staff feels that it would appear to have a minimal impact on adjacent properties and property owners. In conclusion, based on the above information, staff's analysis of the review criteria and any public opinions as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from granting of a special use permit for this short-term rental. Section 1738-160, special or conditional use permit decision of the board, requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of the receipt of the application and request information. The board shall within 60 days deny the application and give reason for the denial in writing to the applicant, or approve the application, and the zoning officer shall issue a zoning compliance permit with conditions specified therein. Thank you.
Thank you, Joella. Do any board members have any questions of the staff?
I do,
Mr. Collins?
Mr. Chairman. When I drove by there today, there's a post on the porch that says 208 and a half. Is that the real address, or does that just?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins, so there is a posting that says 208 and a half. However, if you try to get on Google Maps or any of the locating maps, that address does not come up. It doesn't come up under our map finding with our GIS either. So it could be difficult for a guest to find that particular address.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions by any board members?
Mr. Chairman,
Burmeister?
I'm curious, do these properties get posted similar to other use permits so neighbors are aware of proposed VRBO or Airbnb?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Burkmeister, yes, we post it in the Montana Standard, and then we also put a board out 7 days prior to the public hearing.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Moylan, you now have an opportunity to speak in support of your application.
Thank you, Mr. Wing. I'm Cameron Moylan, 208 South Washington. I just want to thank the planning board for taking the time to put into this. It seems to be a pretty honest report. I just have to say with the 208 and a half question, I would be all right with applying for an actual address on that. And I think I could, it shows up like that on the power bills, but it's been kind of a thing for a long time, and I'd be glad to just apply for an actual address and have it be 208 and a half. And then as far as the parking goes, I wouldn't have any problem with just noting on the ad that it's not wheelchair friendly. It just is what it is, I guess. But yeah, pretty simple, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moylan, could you stay there just in case any board members have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Moylan, we receive kind of standard conditions, recommended conditions for approval from our staff. Have you reviewed these? There are 5 different conditions that are pretty standard and applicable to these types of things. Have you? Maybe go ahead and take a couple minutes and read them if you need to.
That seems like everything we talked about.
Okay. And so if we were to vote to approve your permit, you'd be in agreement with all these conditions?
Yes, I do already have a business license, so I'd probably just operate under that rather than applying for a new one, but yeah, I don't have a problem with those conditions.
Thank you. Any further questions by the board to the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Moylan.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? Hearing nobody, is there anybody present that would care to speak against this application? Hearing nobody, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask one more question of the
Certainly.
staff.
Of
Okay,
the applicant or the staff?
the staff.
Staff,
Okay.
certainly. Reopen it for that purpose.
Okay, thank you. This is to anybody that knows. Is there any kind of, for a rental like this, is there any kind of a inspection that's required from BSB anywhere as far as health and safety or, mechanical issues, anything like that?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins, if you will note in those recommended conditions of approval, obtaining the public accommodations license, the health department does do an inspection. They do a one-time inspection and make sure that there's fire extinguishers, and they have a whole checklist that they go through. And then the only other inspections after that would be based on complaint.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pipinich. Mr. Wing?
Thank you, Mr. Collins. So once again, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion.
Mr. Wing, Chairman, the reason I asked my one question in the beginning about posting, I've received a couple different comments from different people that know I sit on the zoning board about VRBO type properties and their concern with them popping up in different communities. And I've told them all the same thing, which is all of these types of property uses have to come before us. It's an opportunity for public comment, and so if you have concern with this, that they should come to these meetings and voice that concern. And the fact that nobody's here to object to Mr. Moylan's proposal, I think, is evidence that it shouldn't be too much of a concern.
Thank you. Any further thoughts with regard to this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'm thinking perhaps we may want to write in another condition, or at least consider or ask for guidance from the staff about parking. And there's business parking lots around there, and anybody can park on the street, but if this parking situation proves to be difficult, naturally people are going to want to park in the paved parking lots that are right adjacent to it. And possibly I would think that maybe the applicant in his advertisement should state that the parking, that they shouldn't park in the business parking lots. That could be a problem. Or if, he might want to go to the clinic there and see if there's something that he can do about that. But that's the only other thing that I can think of, and maybe it's a moot point, I don't know. But just a thought. Thank you.
The staff care to talk about that? Anything really to say?
Mr. Chairman, staff does believe that, parking could be an issue, and if it was the dedicated parking spaces, if it was mentioned in the listing for the Airbnb, it would hopefully maybe reduce some confusion.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further thoughts with regard to this matter, does anybody care to make a motion?
Your turn.
You're on a roll. Just for a little bit more discussion, do you have specific language in mind of what that condition?
I think we should possibly just maybe make the, in his advertisement, in however they advertise the property for rent, just let the renters know that those are the two provided spots, and if they don't use them, they can use the street, but not the parking lot, the private lots, just as a courtesy.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve special use permit 22-004 with 6 conditions, the 5 conditions recommended by staff, with the 6th condition being that the applicant will clearly delineate the dedicated spaces that he's associating with his parcel and make clear to any tenants that they should not be utilizing the neighboring businesses for parking.
Okay. Sounds like an appropriate condition to me. So we have the motion, and anybody care to second that motion? I second. It's been seconded by Mr. Reese. We can now vote with regard to this matter. Thank you, Doug. Sir. Thanks, John. All 5 votes are for the motion, which means that your application has been approved, and you will be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect, and thank you. Final matter on our agenda is a special use permit application, quintuple 22-505. And are you present? Yes, sir. Okay. You ready, Joella?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This presentation is for another Airbnb, special use 22-00005. The applicant is Big Sky Home Rentals, LLC. The representative is Jeff Lasher, and it's a proposal to locate an Airbnb in an existing residence per section 1738-180. The applicant is proposing to rent out a 2-bedroom residence for overnight stays and short-term rentals through online hosting program. Staff findings. Lodging provided by homeowners for compensation is recognized as a special use allowed in any residential zoning district, provided that the prescribed use is in harmony with other uses permitted in the zone and not found to be contrary to public interest. The process provides for a review of physical conditions which exist at the location, the conduct and operation of the proposed use, and whether the combination of the factors will be compatible with the proposed site and surrounding area. To provide the board with information about the proposed special use, the applicant and planning staff have responded to the established 20 questions outlined herein. This proposal is in the R1 zoning district, which is a single-family resident, again outlined here in the navy blue. Here's an aerial photo of the same location. Location and character of the property and surrounding buildings. The property is in an R1 or a single-family resident zone. The home is a single-family home with a footprint of 1,011 square feet, and the parcel itself is 3,150 square feet in size. Here's some photos of the surrounding area. This is looking to the east in both photos. One is directly across the street, more northeast, and this one is more southeast. And this is looking towards the west, down the street from the property. Location and character of the property and surrounding buildings. The property in question is located within an area containing single-family residences. Lots surrounding the property are anywhere from 3,000 to 12,000 square feet in size. The parcels located across the alley to the south are also single-family residences located in the R1 zone. 1 block to the east and 1 block to the south are commercially zoned. Substantial changes that have occurred in the surrounding land uses since the original adoption of the ordinance. There have been no changes to the zoning ordinance in that area. The property in question is located within the suburban mixed place type in the comprehensive plan. The suburban mixed place type describes neighborhoods in Butte-Silver Bow that exhibit a mixed residential development pattern, typically located within or immediately adjacent to the urban areas. These neighborhoods typically have a more traditional street grid with smaller varied lot sizes compared to the suburban neighborhoods, and a more diverse selection of housing types, including attached and detached single-family, as well as townhouses, apartments, and condominiums. In many cases, mixed neighborhoods act as a buffer to the more traditional, established neighborhoods from higher intensity commercial uses, allowing transition to occur more smoothly. Here's a map of the comprehensive map. You've got the suburban mix. Here is the location in the light blue. You've got transportation gateway and the north corridor directly to the east and to the south. Proposed fencing, screening, and landscaping. There is no proposed changes concerning landscaping at this time. There is a shorter wrought iron fence there. Proposed vehicle access, circulation, and parking. Vehicle access to and from the property is acceptable for the proposed use. The access is provided via Yale Avenue in the front of the residence. As you can see here, just right off the street and right on the side of the house there. Some other photos, there are some steps going up onto the property and then also up into the residence. Proposed signs and lighting. The applicant under BSBMC section 1742050A5 may have one sign as a directional or informational sign no larger than 5 square feet in area to inform guests as to where the parking area is located. In addition, applicants shall be permitted a 1 square foot sign flat against the front wall to the building. Any change in additional signage would be subject to review and approval by the planning department. Applicants have indicated that they don't intend to install any signage at this time. Regarding lighting, the existing lighting is typical of a residential neighborhood. Potential nuisances. Increased traffic in the neighborhood. So long as occupancy levels of the residents are in conformance with the residential building code, it shouldn't increase any traffic. Parking. There's some off-street parking places if the applicants are limited to occupancy level dictated by the size of the house. There shouldn't be any more of a parking issue than if the house were inhibited long-term. Wayfinding. Staff believes that the address should be clearly posted on the front of the residence and be visible from the street to mitigate the potential for guests to mistake a neighbor's home for the rental unit. Noise. Staff would suggest that the owner does enforce rules through the online hosting program to regulate noise. Public safety and health. Butte-Silver Health Department has regulations related to providing rooms for rent and occupancy level of the building. That the use conforms to objectives of the adoptive comprehensive plan and purpose of this ordinance. The comprehensive plan or growth policy designation for this parcel is the suburban mix. Staff believes that the proposed use is consistent with the intent of the zoning ordinance to allow for reasonable use of the private property. The zoning ordinance permits certain commercial uses to be located within all residential zones. After review by the Zoning Board of Adjustments, the special use application process was created to ensure these types of businesses don't negatively impact the adjacent residents. That the use of classification will not adversely affect nearby properties or their occupants. Anytime a commercial business encroaches into a residential neighborhood, there is a potential for the use to negatively impact the surrounding property owners. In this case, when considering the low-impact commercial nature of the business and the owners limiting the number of occupants, staff feels that it would appear to have a minimal impact on adjacent properties and property owners. Conclusion. Based on the above information, staff's analysis of the review criteria and any public opinion as it relates to the criteria, the board must determine if the applicant has presented evidence to the satisfaction of the board that said undue detriment will not result from the granting of a special use permit for the short-term rental. Section 1738-160, special or conditional use permit decision of board requires staff to refer the application to the board within 15 days of the receipt of the application and all request information. The board shall, within 60 days, deny the application and give reason for the denial in writing to the applicant, or approve the application, and the zoning officer shall issue a zoning compliance permit with conditions specified thereon.
Thank you, Joella. Take a drink of water there. Mr. Lasher, would you care to step forward and provide any additional information?
Yes, please. Jeff Lasher, Lasher, L-A-S-H-E-R. I'm here today just mostly because I wanted to do the right thing and come forth. We do know there's a problem or challenge with unregistered short-term rentals within Butte-Silver. So as soon as I learned the process, I instantly got my application in, went through. I've already met with the health department, gone through that check back in February. So it's really, just been a few months of really trying to get this whole process going since I really started it early in February. But the big things that I just wanted to call out is there's just a really important need in our community for filling those gaps that long-term rentals don't always fill, particularly with the healthcare workers and a lot of these temporary workers in our communities, whether construction in different areas like that. I've been in contact with quite a few different residents or commuters into Montana across the state, and I've just seen a huge need. So I'm here, as like a proud host. I do have properties out in Billings, and this would be my first one out here, and it was something that I was just saw a need and excited. I really spend a lot of time on my properties, making sure I fix up the neighborhood, and make it something that I'm proud of, and that's really why I'm here today. Looking for your support in supporting our community. So, thank you.
Mr. Lasher, have you reviewed these conditions of approval?
I do not recall these 5.
We might have a copy there.
Yes, I have reviewed these and spoke with your team in the planning department, and I do believe these are acceptable and, great conditions of approval for all future short-term rental hosts as well. So,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lasher.
thank you.
See if any board members might have any questions. None, apparently?
I don't.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anybody present that would care to speak in support of this application? Yes, ma'am, if you could.
I live right next door.
Okay.
My name's Tracy Simon, S-I-M-O-N.
Thank you.
I just wanted to let them know I'm in full support of having an Airbnb next door. I've dealt with drug users, everything in the last 15 years living next door, so I completely support. And when I found out it was an Airbnb, I'm like, yes. The only concern I have, will my property taxes rise because of something like this? No?
No.
Okay. Yeah, other than that, I'm okay with it. The only thing I wanted to ask you is, I did not know this was an Airbnb up until that sign was posted, and I know you've had a couple people staying there every so often?
Previously,
Okay.
and then once I spoke to the planning department, I removed my listing.
Okay.
And I've had like a few friends, like stay as they're passing through.
Okay, yeah. No problem. Great people that have been there since they've been staying, so. Yeah, I even have to clean the house once they're done. But yeah, I'm all for it. I live right next door in that red house you've seen in the pictures, like right next door, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely.
thank you for your comments. Now close the public portion of the meeting and open it for board discussion. Any thoughts? Seems straightforward, and there's even public
Yeah.
support for it.
Yeah, I agree.
With 5 conditions?
With 5 conditions. I think they're all valid, aren't they?
Yeah. No.
Not really. We could pick and choose among them, but if they were automatic, they'd be in the report.
Because they all receive a copy of them before. Yeah, with 5.
I second it.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks. All 5 votes are for the motion, so your application has been approved and you'll be receiving a letter from the planning staff to that effect. So thank you, sir. And thank you, ma'am, for your comments tonight. Is there any further business before the board?
Mr. Chairman, I did want to mention one thing. Planning staff has, through the direction of the planning board, which is the zoning commission, we've have a consultant under contract to do an overwrite of the zoning ordinance. That work kickoff will probably be scheduled for sometime in June, with their tentative schedule being 1 year. So it looks like we're hopefully going to get a new zoning ordinance. So just would like to let you know that, and obviously we'll keep you apprised of the progress, and any participation in anything would be more than welcome.
Thank you, Dylan. I guess the meeting can be adjourned.
Okay.